Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always, and thanks for joining us for episode number 107. So today, as promised, we are back with an Irish whiskey for you, a unique one, and one that has just been released not too long ago by the Dead Rabbit Whiskey Company. So you may be familiar with the Dead Rabbit bar in New York City. It's acclaimed a lot of fame, especially over the owners as well, and on the unfortunate side, a recent fire that took place there. But nonetheless, we're here to talk about the whiskey that they have produced. So they're from Ireland originally, so of course they had to create their own whiskey of their own since they have some of the best selection in the country at their bar, which I haven't been to yet, but I hope to someday. Now, this is aged 5 years, bottled at 44% ABV, which is nice. Get that nice cork sound there. I'm sure that got captured on the mic there, which is nice. It's always good to have a little bit higher ABV, and it's nice to see that they bottled it at 44% ABV instead of some other folks who, if they're going to bump it up a little bit, they'll do typically 43% ABV. So it's nice that we get a little percentage boost there. So, as I said, aged 5 years. It is a blended Irish whiskey, so it has both malt and grain whiskeys in there. And it's been aged for 5 years and finished in a small handcrafted American oak barrels. So finished in that, not aged for 5 years in that. So pretty nice bottle on there. We've got both of the owners on there, Jack McGarry and Sean Muldoon. Virgin American Oak finished is on there, dream distilled and matured in Ireland. So that's one of the things about this bottle that I really do appreciate, is the fact that we have a distilled and location by. But what we don't have is by who. And this is a typical thing of bottlers, independent bottlers, who bottle things, and sometimes they can't say legally, but other times they could give a hint as to where it was created in, not just produced by. That's sort of a misleading term that gets put on labels a lot. Which leads you to think that it's actually distilled by a certain company who, in fact, is only getting the whiskey, bottling it, and, selling it somewhere. So this one's relatively new. Not sure exactly where the whiskey's coming from. I'm guessing probably Bushmills, but, that's a total toss-up. Some people out there probably can comment that they actually know the whereabouts of where this was originally distilled from. There's only so many places that it could be. So let's get into the whiskey. Now, I will preface this by, it took me a while to come up with this review because the first time I tasted it, I was not enthused by it at all. I can't even tell you sort of the reaction I initially had when I tasted it. It was just sort of stale, stagnant. I wasn't getting much flavor out of it. It just really tasted like the Virgin American Oak. As I've said with some other whiskeys out there, particularly Irish whiskeys, it almost tastes like, the end of a popsicle stick. There's not much going on there. You get that just wood taste, and not in a great sort of like toasted vanilla type wood, like wood tannins or anything like that, but just like, licking a 2x4, which is not good at all. So I sort of set it to the side for a while, and I didn't come back and touch it until this past week. I was just looking for something to have at night, a little nightcap. So opened it up, figured had the whole bottle there minus, one pour. So figured I'd give it another try, see what was going on. And what I found is that it had opened up since I had first uncorked the bottle, letting some of that air in there, letting it aerate, getting some of those flavors to develop and aromas to develop, which was absolutely, pertinent. And not having done it in a while, typically having something out of the bottle that, I can initially, start grabbing bits and pieces of information from, in typically being, ready to go almost. But just a stark reminder, that some of these whiskeys, maybe a little bit more on the delicate side, need a little bit of time, to open up and that sort of deal. So if you're ever in the same situation, I would suggest, give it a little bit of time, let the bottle open up a bit, pour yourself a couple glasses, come back to it, a week later or so, and then see how things develop. So the first thing we notice, the color on this, it's really hard to tell if there's any coloring in this. It's even harder when it's in the glass, but when it's in the bottle, sort of just sitting on the shelf next to other things that are no caramel coloring added, it gives the indication that there is a slight bit of caramel colorant added, which I'm not sure which way to go about it, because it doesn't say anywhere on the bottle. And typically that's a great selling point for connoisseurs and the like, people who know that they'd rather not have colorant in their whiskey. That's sort of a notch in that producer to say that there's no caramel coloring added, non-chill filtered, that sort of thing. Don't see that, so I'm going to lean towards that there probably is some colorant in there, which could possibly be too bad if there is. So let's go in for the nose. Now, the first thing that you get, again, once you've let it open up, is some honey, vanilla, overly sweet, a little bit of sugary notes coming off there. Fresh baked bread. It's got a really sort of traditional Irish blended whiskey nose to it, which is lovely. Definitely soft, definitely delicate. You can tell, that this could take a little bit of time to get opened up there, but overall, pretty nice nose. Now, once you've given it time, obviously, you really come through with a lot of those malted barley notes, a little bit of pepperiness to it on the end. But first and foremost, I get a strong sense of honey, vanilla, a hint of caramel candy in there, like almost like caramel syrup or something like that you'd get on, a sundae or something like that. Just really soft, hint of floral notes in there, but overall a nicely balanced mouthfeel and taste to it. This is a great thing to have at the end of the night. When you just need a little something, even after dessert or after a meal or something, almost as a dessert whiskey, in the sense that it's not overpowering. It's not sort of like last week when we had the Bookers. It's just a real sort of like punch in the face. This one is mellowed out. I hate to use the word smooth because that just gets thrown around, like nothing in marketing, on labels, websites, that sort of thing, to describe a whiskey is that it's smooth, right? And that's supposed to mean, something grand. But it's well balanced. It's delicate. It's calming almost, in a sense that it's like a dessert. You get almost the sugary caramel note that I said. The vanilla plays in a lot like a malt milkshake. This is sort of the mouthfeel that I'm getting in there when I can taste sort of the the vanilla extract and get a little bit of the overly coldness from ice cream that you mix in to make a homemade milkshake or something like that. But it's got a really nice, satisfying dessert forward note to it, which I really enjoy. So one of the last things you'll notice is then I didn't put any water in this. I don't think this is a whiskey that can really take a ton of water before it starts really flattening out, which I don't want to do. That's obviously to each person's taste, and you can find out for yourself. I may at some point explore, what a little bit of water does, but I don't think it's going to change this in a dramatic way, at least for my palate. So I would probably just drink it as is at the 44% ABV. But again, you do what you want. So that about wraps it up for this week's episode. For a score, for those of you scoring along at home, I would give it 79, 80. It's nice. It's nothing special. It fits in with some of the other blends that are out there. Jameson, the Tullamore Original, Paddy's, Bushmills. It fits into that sort of area of the shelf. There's nothing totally nuanced about it. It's aged a good 5 years. Got a little bit of that virgin American oak. Sort of that spiciness that I was, or the pepperiness that I was getting sort of the back of the tongue, but not overly so. Some independent bottlers have put out some Irish whiskeys that really take too much advantage of the virgin American oak, and I think it ruins it in a way. So I do believe that the Dead Rabbit in this case has balanced that really nicely between the grain and the malt, and also with the finishing, right, in this case of the virgin American oak. So hats off to them. I would probably stick with a solid 80 on that. So until next time, if you're going to drink, as always, drink responsibly, and see you then.